Well, many of us enjoyed an additional hour of sleep last night. Most, but not all, of North America fell back an hour to standard time. There have been calls to do away with the time change because it's a nuisance that's lost its relevance in modern non-agricultural society, and some suggest it may even be a health hazard. Dr. Adam Moscovitch is the medical director of Sleep and Fatigue Institute. He joins us from Toronto. Dr. Moscovitch, it's good to see you. I wonder, first of all, how big a deal is it really for our bodies to cope with a 1 hour time change?
Well, it's a much bigger deal usually in the spring, when most people actually lose an hour of sleep. And the evidence for the spring change is that the accident rates on Canadian highways go up by about almost 10%. Heart attack rates go up significantly. And there is even an Australian study that showed that suicide rates, in particularly for men, go up. So even 1 hour change in the clock can make a difference. In the fall, we normally get 1 extra hour of sleep, which on its own would be of benefit. The problem is that we are now getting into the winter months, and that's when we start having much more issues with what we call winter depression or seasonal affective disorder.
Can I get a little personal with you for a moment and ask how you and your family slept last night? And how did you lead up to the time change?
We have 4 kids and 2 dogs, so you can figure out on your own.
Not a lot of sleep at any particular time. Do you think these switches every year between standard time and daylight time remain necessary?
Well, eliminating it is not something that we can do alone in Canada, considering the fact that it's happening literally throughout the globe. So eliminating it in Canada alone would essentially get us out of sync with what's happening internationally. But in Saskatchewan, for example, issues are quite different. And it's still something that serves a positive purpose, in particularly in the farming communities, resulting in more daylight time. Again, getting back to the seasonal affective disorder issue, anything that increases our daylight, natural light exposure during the day is positive both from the mood perspective and the sleep perspective.
Well, one of the best things for combating these darker days is to go to someplace sunny, and often that involves changing time zones. For travelers, what kind of tips can you suggest for us?
Well, going down to Florida, like some...
That's no problem. It's still the Eastern time zone. But say, for instance, you're flying, say, to Arizona, for instance.
Okay, if we are talking about winter depression in particular, and that's what I really see as a significantly debilitating condition around this part of the year. What people are starting to experience is significant depression, but most people still at a level that they can still function in their occupation, going to school, etc., but they practically withdraw from their social activities. So a lot of people call it literally hibernating in the winter.
I need a fast answer for this one, if I may. If you're changing time zones, though, is there a way of preparing your body before you do travel east or west out of the time zone that you may have?
Very much so. If the time zone change is significant, such as flying, for example, to Europe or flying to the Far East, then it makes perfect sense to prepare you for that, yourself for that, and start functioning at the time, start moving your scheduled sleep time. The other thing that can be very effectively used is light treatment, and there are special light helmets that can be used for that, which change your melatonin secretion. And some of those light helmet units actually come with what is called a jet lag calculator. So you can get on the website, indicate what is your destination. Let's say I'm flying from Toronto to London. It will tell you when to expose yourself to light, when to avoid light exposure, and it can decrease jet lag to about 20% of what it normally would be. When you are just flying in North America, actually, it doesn't make sense to change your body clock, especially if it's a short business trip.
Well, those are particularly good tips, and we hope to be able to use some of those for our next trip. Dr. Adam Moscovitch, Medical Director of the Sleep and Fatigue Institute. Good speaking with you.
Same here. Have a great sleep.